Hey, hello guys. Welcome to Python programming for kids and teens again. This is the second video in this series. If you have not seen the first one, first video, I recommend that you go see the first video. So after the first video, which is the introduction to computers, right? I got a lot of feedbacks from people, like they were asking questions in depth to computer, right? Like they want to really know how computer works. So I thought, well, maybe I can do a video about computer architecture, right? So like what happens deep down in the computer, right? How does computer convert text to binaries? How does it do calculation with binaries? And how does it display binaries, right? Like for us to see on the screen, right? So that is what we're going to be doing today: computer architecture, going deep down into how computer actually works, and how we can know all of that. Okay. So so the topic for today again is computer architecture. Computer architecture, and this is gonna be lesson 2 again. It is more talking about how computer actually works, like what goes on deep down in the hood. So the first question is, what is computer architecture, right? So architecture itself means design, right? Like architecture means design. So computer architecture now means how computers are designed, right? Deep down, into the little details how they are designed, right? So computer architecture, it explains how the input, what you type on the keyboard, is stored in your computer, right? How is being processed and how the result is being displayed on the screen. So we're going to cover all of that so you know how everything works. So for example, how does your phone, like your phone is a computer too, like how does it help you to control video games that you play on Roblox or any other video games, right? You press forward, then your character goes forward. How does that happen, right? So like these are some of the questions that we want to answer today, because it will help you guys to actually understand what is going on. Then maybe it will make you a good programmer, right? Before we go in details into Python programming, right? So I hope you guys will enjoy it. So like I want you to please pay attention, right? So if you don't understand something, pause it, think about it, and you ask questions. Okay. So how do you work on your school homework, right? So like I want to use this example to kind of explain computer architecture, how you like do your homework, right? So the first thing, right, is your teacher, right? So your teacher is from your school, so like that's your teacher on the screen right here, and that is you, like the student, right? So the teacher will give you homework, right? So that homework is the input, right, to you. So like you are the computer in here. So like your teacher gives you homework like through input, like the input is the book, right? So then when you get the homework, then you store the homework in your backpack, right? That is the storage, right? So are you getting the connection? That is your storage, right? Then when you get home, then you work on your homework, like you fix your homework, right? That is the processing stage, right? Then when you are done with that, then the next day you show it to your teacher, right? That is how computer works too. So like computer takes input from the teacher, right? Then like the input method, like maybe like mouse or keyboard or anything, then it stores it in the memory, then it processes it, right? Then it shows it on the screen, right? So just think about that process, and you can pause the video, but that is how computer works. Okay, so now let's now go into computer design, right? So we saw the design, like using your homework. So now let's now go into details of how this works in computer. So the first thing that we have are the inputs, right? So the input that you use to put something in the computer, you can use your mouse, you can use your keyboard, and you can use your camera. You can use the touch screen on your phone, right? So now when you put that input in your computer, what comes out of the input are just series of zeros and ones, right? So if you type A on your keyboard, you will get zeros and ones. So I will still give you guys details of how the conversion happens, but just know that when you type something, your computer sees zeros and ones. Okay, so then the next one is the memory, where your computer stores that zeros and ones. So like when you type something, it converts it to zeros and ones, then it stores it on your phone memory, on your computer memory, on your SD card. That's the memory part. So like the memory was your backpack, right? You remember? Good. So now after that, then the computer needs to process that information, and that processing, if you remember, is you working on your homework, right? So it processes the information, then after that, then it has to display. So after processing it, the computer will still give you zeros and ones, right? But now people don't understand zeros and ones. Computer needs to convert that zeros and ones to something that people can read, right? Like text, images, and all of that. So computer use its screen to do that. So you can use computer screen, you can use phone screen, and all of that. So the output is the one that converts the zeros and ones, right, to something that you can read. So like this is the overview of computer design. So I will go into details for each of these sections: input, memory, processing, and output, and hopefully you guys will kind of understand what is going on. All right, so let's check it out. So the first one is the input, right? So let's first talk about the text input. So you type A on your keyboard. How does the computer interpret that? So the computer use something that is called ASCII code. Is American Standard Code for Information Interchange. What that means is like some group of people came together and say that, okay, yeah, let's use this standard for computers, right? Because computers can't understand alphabets, right? So how do we deal with it, right? So they not came together and say, okay, so if you have a symbol A, then symbol A should represent 97 decimal. So that's what you see on the ASCII table in here. So they say, oh yeah, symbol B, or like alphabet B, should be 98, something like that, right? So that is how they did the conversion. So for example, like you see there, A is coded 97, right? So but again, the computer still don't understand alphabet. Then you now convert that 97 to binary, right? So alphabet to binary conversion, you can check that online, how the conversion happens. Okay, so now what about the image inputs? If you have images, right, how do you represent images with zeros and ones, right? So like these images are not even alphabet, right? So how do you do that? So images are made up of tiny dots. They are called pixels, right? So if you have like a big image, like the image contains tiny dots, right? And that pixel actually has values associated with them, right? So the pixels are the one that makes like the images look like what you want. Like if the image is black, white, green, or yellow, or purple, is the pixel, right, that will show that. So I'm trying to show you guys an image here. So you see on the left, right, that is what you see, right? But on the right, this is what the computer sees, right? So you upload this image, right? You see like a smiley face, but the computer sees what is on the right. So each pixels are the boxes that you see in here, right? So now the computer will represent these by putting 1 where there is black and zeros where there is white. So that is how computer stores like an image. Okay, so then the height and the width of an image determines the number of pixels it has. So like if you have image that is like 100 like the height is 100, the width is 100, so that means it has 1000 pixels to represent that image, right? So and if your image has colors, right, so the pixel, we have 3 numbers to represent red, green, and blue, right? But let's just make it simple, just black and white. So this is how your computer represents information. All right, so now the next step is the memory. So now that we got the information from our input, which are zeros and ones, so how does the computer now store or save these zeros and ones in its memory? So computers are made up of something called transistors. So transistors are just electronic device that are used to store data, right? So transistors are like electric switch at home, right? So like you have your switch, you can turn it on or off, right? That is what transistor is, right? So transistor can either be on or off, and your computer has lots of transistors, right? Lots and lots of it, right? So now your computer now uses that to use the transistors to store data, right? So for example, you see like I have 6 transistors here, and it's 101011, right? So this transistor was used to store 43, right? So if you can see, if you convert binary value of this to decimal, is going to be 43, right? So this is how computer represents information, right? Then the more transistor that you have, the more data that you can store, right? And this is how the conversion happens, right? You can pause the video to look at it. Alright guys, the next thing I want to show you guys is to know how many bits your operating system has. Operating system is the software running on your computer, your Windows for your Windows machine, the Macintosh for Mac, right? So your OS has a particular number of bits that it can process at a time, right? So the more bits it can process at a time, the faster your computer will work, right? So if you have 64 bits will operate faster than 32 bits, right? So then how do I know the number of bits my computer has? So if you are on Windows, this is the step that you need to take to know the number of bits. So if you're on Mac operating system, so this is how to check the number of bits that your Mac OS has, right? So you click on the left Apple icon on the top left, select about this Mac, then you get the name of the processor, right? So when you get the name of the processor, you will now cross-check it with this table, right? Mine is called i5 and it's 64 bits, right? So you do that, you'll be able to get the bits for your Mac, right? Then the next part that we want to talk about is the processing of the parts of the computer architecture, right? So we have the input, we have the storage. Then how does the computer process the zeros and ones, right, to be able to get the result and give us like the result in what we'll be able to see? So the computer uses the CPU to calculate to do calculation. CPU is called central processing unit, right? So let's say we want to add 3 plus 2 together, right? So you remember we'll first need to convert 3 and 2 to binary, right? Because the input we convert it. So 3 is this binary, 2 is this binary. Then we'll do the calculation of adding those binary together. Then we have the result, right? And this is the result. So and the result is going to be 5, right? So this is like an example of CPU. You also have this CPU in your computer. The CPU is the one that does all this calculation, right? And will be able to give us the result that we want, right? So everything that you do, this is the CPU that do that. Now, so after the CPU does the calculation and all of that and give us the result in binary, right? So how do we get the result to be displayed on the screen? Because like humans can read zeros and one, because like zeros and one doesn't make anything like sense to you, right? So how will the computer screen process this information for us to see, right? So you remember what I taught you about pixel, about images, right? So yeah, so the computer screen uses pixel to display the text and the images that we get from the CPU, right? And the computer screen use something that is called LEDs, right? So LED is like electric bulb that you have, in your house, right? But LED is very, very tiny, and like the computer screen has a lot of it, right? So just imagine what we have in here, or these images, right? So the computer will use the LED to represent this smiley face, right? Your computer screen will make the black, the one part to go black and the white part to go white. So this is how that works. Okay. So after all of that, I hope you guys you're able to get everything in the video. So I have just a short quiz for you guys. Go through this question and you should be able to answer it. You can put the answer in the chat, or you can just work on it by yourself, right? So these are the questions. It should be easy, I guess. Alright guys, that's all I have for you on computer architecture. Hope that was able to answer all your questions about how computer works, right? So please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends, and anyone that you think should learn Python programming. So in the next class, we'll probably go into installing all the software that we need to start actually programming in Python, right? So see you guys in the next video. Thank you.